Good morning. This is October 1st. My name is Bill Allen. I'm sure if you've reviewed any of this information online, you're already thinking this is highly improbable because it's not public knowledge, it hasn't been in the newspapers, and it's not online. To support that position that it's not public knowledge, I'd like to show you a few articles to start. This is an article by the World Health Organization. They state in that article, oxygen therapy remains an inaccessible luxury to severely ill children admitted to hospital in developing nations. I hope you'll listen to that statement a few times, and I think it'll have maybe tremendous impact on you after you see what happens when you experiment with this. To support the World Health Organization's statement, this is 400 of the world's oxygen doctors in 22 countries, 74 pages of them. None of them are going to tell you about breathing free oxygen and instantly boosting your blood oxygen level. Another article I ran across just a few days ago is another stunning article. This article is about a hospital in India where 64 children are on life support. That life support is oxygen. The hospital can't afford to pay the bill, which is about 1.5 million, for the oxygen supply. So the oxygen is turned off by either the hospital or the supplier, and the 64 children die accompanied by their parents. Now, my contention is the doctors, the hospital, the children, the parents, none of them knew what I'm going to demonstrate to you, that a person can sit in the desert, in a hut in Africa, and take a few breaths and instantly increase their blood oxygen level. So those documents support the contention that this can't be real because it's not public knowledge, hasn't been in newspapers, and it isn't online. Basically, no one's talking about this. The reason for that, after 6 years of doing this breathing, the only reason I can come up with is that this is free, and business in any form does not do free. Now, the closest thing I can demonstrate is this. I did this a few days ago, September 27th. Now, what that is a demonstration to show, and I think this might be first time ever done. It's a demonstration to show that you can instantly increase your blood oxygen level. Now, I'm a poor test case for this because I already have a high blood oxygen level. But as this document shows, I use a news channel to show the time, a time lapse. At 6:48 in the morning on September 27th, I had 95% blood oxygen level and 74 heart rate. 42 minutes later at 7:30, I had 99% blood oxygen level and a heart rate of 56. So this, I can demonstrate this to you. You will probably have a far more dramatic result than myself. I have seen many people go from 90 to 97 in minutes. Most people it takes 25 minutes. The most shocking I've seen is a fellow named Alexander. He has kidney failure, and he went from about 78% blood oxygen level to 93% in 5 minutes with 3 breaths. That's the fastest I've seen. But I've seen this done now dozens and dozens of times. So this may be the first demonstration to try to prove that you can raise your own blood oxygen level without any mechanical means. The next article I'd like to show you is this. This is a physiologist. His name is John West. He studied the lungs for 20 years. He's probably the most respected physiologist in this respect. He discovered that the lower lungs give you 7 times more oxygen and remove 15 times the amount of toxins out of your body. I read somewhere else that the main reason for this is that the heart pumps blood down many times easier than the heart pumps blood up. So we are all shallow breathers, breathing in the upper lungs, getting very little oxygen and removing very little toxins. The lower lungs remove, as he says, 7 times more oxygen. I don't think Mr. West knew anything about breathing, but his studies on the lungs are considered the gold standard in the books on lungs. So a person only has to get the air down to the lower lungs to receive 7 times oxygen and start to purify the blood by removing 15 times the toxic waste. This purification process, I think, would be ongoing with a person from the day that they start this breathing. Getting the air down to the lower lungs is as simple as this. That's basically it. I would, if you're severely ill, I would suggest you even consult your doctor as to whether or not you should take a deep breath, as silly as that sounds. But I think your doctor's response is going to be the same as mine was. He said, when you go to med school, they don't teach you anything about breathing. When he discovered that my genetically high cholesterol had gone from a lifetime of 750, actually 788 in 2008, and the next time I went for a checkup, my total cholesterol had dropped to 525. The doctor said, as I just mentioned, that in med school they don't teach us anything about breathing, but my results were, in his estimation, remarkable. He used the word remarkable 3 times in 20 minutes. I think you're going to get the same response from your doctor, because doctors, I think the vast majority of them, probably 98 or 99%, do not know anything about this. So a baby breathes through the lower lungs, giving them optimum immunity and killing bacteria, virus, and fungi. Here's an article by the Lung Institute of Canada. They even make a little bit of a joke about breathing, and in their article they say 5 in 5 Canadians need to breathe. The importance of this article was that they showed the connection between oxygen and the brain, how powerful it is to the brain. The brain is only 4 pounds and yet uses 20% of the oxygen we take in. This year is the first time I've seen that connection. I was just working with a lady with Parkinson's last week. Many remarkable things happened. On Monday of last week, she could hardly get out of a chair, and on Thursday morning, she was jogging around the house. I have videos to support that. What I witnessed with that lady, and now a couple of other people, is that the brain, when it receives a healthy amount of oxygen, starts to communicate, I guess you would call it, with the extremities especially, like this lady last week with Parkinson's. On Monday she could hardly lift up things like coasters on the dining room table. By Thursday she was able to pick them up and rotate them like someone playing with cards. A remarkable change. Now this article is to explain how this naturally affects diabetes. Oxygen, when it enters the bloodstream, breaks down glucose, which is the A1C, and transforms it into ATP, which is an energy for muscles. So it's a natural process that if you increase the oxygen in your blood, you're just naturally dramatically improving or possibly curing your diabetes. Just one example of how oxygen dramatically improves or cures almost all illness. Newspaper stories have been written about this. They're both behind me, one by York Region Media Group 2 years ago, another one by a local newspaper, the Stouffville Free Press, a few months ago. The hands and face are also evidence of blood circulation. As you can see, my hands are very pink. Ordinarily, my face is quite pink too. We all know that if a child comes home and is pale, we know that they've suddenly come down with something. This breathing technique works for everyone. Anyone who says it doesn't work, the answer to that is two things. Either they're doing it incorrectly or they just don't want to do it. The function of the heart and lungs in every human being is the same. You get air down to your lower lungs and you're going to get, as the physiologist says, 7 times more oxygen and go through this purification process where all the toxins and CO2, bacteria, virus, they're all removed from your blood. Your blood will actually, in 30 days, your blood will actually be redder and thinner. And that purification process will continue. If you continue the breathing, it'll probably just continue for the rest of your life, protecting you from colds, the flu, and all kinds of illness. I should take a minute and mention how I stumbled upon this. I used to do scuba diving and free diving in the ocean 50 years ago. And at that time, when we built up our oxygen level to stay underwater for minutes, the divers would all comment for the next few hours about all the health benefits they experienced from that increase in oxygen just for an afternoon. When I started this 6 years ago, my atrial fibrillation disappeared and my genetically high cholesterol went down to normal. 2 things I've added to this breathing, which is basically just deep breathing, but with experimentation over especially the first couple of years, I discovered that this is basically velocity, and came up with getting the velocity instead of exhaling and inhaling violently through the mouth. A person just has to put the finger under the nose and double or triple the velocity like this. All that air goes down to the lower lungs and instantly gives a person a lot of oxygen. The other thing I discovered is repetition. Doing this every day and using velocity takes the effect of deep breathing. As far as the health benefits are concerned, it's 100-fold. That's all for now. Thank you for your time.